Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm Greg Giglio, principal of Homestead High School, and this is our weekly video message. As I like to do, I'm coming to you from a different location, one that you don't often get a chance to see, and this is sort of behind the scenes here. I am wearing our new Homestead Facilities shirt, and our motto, our motto is keep calm and facilities will handle it, as they do. They have been an amazing group of people, and ever since school closed down on March 13th, they're the one group of people that have constantly been here and doing a ton of work. And some of you might be saying, well, what are they doing there if there aren't a lot of kids? Well, there's a lot of work to be done on a high school campus, and they've been doing a lot of preventative maintenance. They've been actually going through also and fixing our air filters, making sure that when students do return, there's going to be a properly working ventilation system with the highest grade filters that we possibly have. We've also got a big old stock of PPE and cleaning supplies here. So right now there's a limited group of people on campus, but there's a very specialized cleaning process that they have to go through to make sure that the school is ready for the next day for workers and students to come back in. And again, as we are preparing at some point when students do return to campus, there will be a much more rigorous cleaning process. And so they're stocking up for that and they're getting ready to do that. So, and they're getting trained in that manner too. So a little shout out to our facilities group. And again, who they will, song side again, keep calm and facilities will handle it. So I'm going to share my screen so I can start on our PowerPoint today. Let's see right here. So putting it in presentation mode. So today is Friday, November 20th. And as we do with our survey, I just a few responses this week, or 11. And this seems to be true every week. We have a low rating of a 1 and a high rating of a 10 and several things in between. Our average this week was a 6.3, and you can see the averages from the previous weeks. So kind of right in that wheelhouse there. Then the other question that we do ask is, what is the reason you may have rated us this way? And this also correlates directly to the other two questions that talk about what do you find valuable and what do you find is lacking. So I've kind of tried to just pare it down into a couple things here, and we definitely have some questions that I'm going to try and cover today, and some other information as well. So again, if I summarized what the roses were, what the things that people found valuable, or the reason why they rated us higher, it was because they found that the teachers and the staff were very caring, were compassionate, and they were being flexible. They felt that the workload and the curriculum was appropriate and was helping their students prepare and move forward. And they definitely liked the steady communication that was coming back and forth. Again, on the other side, you might see some contradictions to that. People who rated us lower or may have had some concerns or complaints talked about workload. There were a couple complaints about late work not being accepted, and I'll address that here in a few slides in just a minute. They also said they didn't like, though, the support and communication, thought there could be more or better, and definitely lacking in the social interactions. And those answers are kind of getting repetitive for both sides as we go through. But, again, just so that you see the consistency going on there. Then, before I get into some of the questions to answer, there were a couple of responses that said, could you please give a shout out to these particular folks? And so all of them are actually in our resource department. So again, a special shout out to our research team, resource teams who work with our students on IEP, who are doing a lot of work to help support students who are definitely struggling in this time. But Miss Janice Swearingen, she's our lead resource specialist, so the department chair of the resource team, as well as Mrs. Ellen Lane, who is our school psychologist, for her support, for both of their supports of a struggling student. And there was also a shout out specifically for Mr. Chai, who is one of our resource teachers, for his outstanding support for a particular student over the past 3 years. So thank you very much. And here are the roses for those three. If I could also just throw a reminder in there, I do have a section where I do ask, would you like me to answer this publicly or privately? And I'm getting a few people asking to do things privately, so I'll email or call them. But you need to remember to include your phone number or an email in there so that I can actually contact you. We don't record where these messages are coming in from, so it's anonymous in that regard. So if you have a specific concern, in order for me to get back to you, or maybe to help you try and solve it, I do need an email or a phone number, and I can actually search in Infinite Campus to find out who you are and who the student is. But if you want to include your name, that's a little bit helpful, saves me some time. But there were three particular requests for private response that I can't do because I don't have an email or a phone number to get back to you. One was about help in communicating with a particular English teacher. So if you could send me that, respond again, and I will help you with that. There were some questions about grading systems. And so if you or how class how people or teachers particularly grade. So if you want to send me that one in as well. And then there was one about a specific 504 student who wasn't being supported by teachers. So if you could go ahead and email. I'll be trying to address some of these a little bit later on as well too, but for your more specific responses, just let me know. There was a specific statement here that I thought I would address particularly. It said, teachers should be forced to accept late work for full credit. I do believe this one was written by a student in the way it was written anyway, but in the only time where a teacher is forced to accept late work is when there is an excused absence. So let's say today's Friday, you are truly too sick to be there, your parent calls you in. You do have an extra day to get your work done, but you do, if you're out sick one day, then you have one day to get it in. Right? So if it was due today, it would be due on Monday. Or if it's assigned today and it's due on Monday, for you, it would then be due on Tuesday, right? So does that make sense? So there is a timeline. You can't just say, okay, I was sick today and I'm going to turn this in 3 weeks from now, right? There is a timeline that needs to be followed. So please make sure you're following those timelines or having that communication with your teacher. What we are finding, and this was an answer from last week too, is that many teachers do have some sort of redemption policies, but they may not accept late work. So you really do need to talk with them and take a look at their green sheets or how they weight their grades to see what's the more important things. Like again, if maybe it's a small homework assignment, that might not be as important to get some late points for as much as some other bigger assignment or a test or a quiz, obviously. So take a look at those. And again, some of them might be something that's just needed to help you prepare for that next day. And if you don't get it done, there really is no point in doing it after that. So just make sure you're communicating with your teacher though, to say, hey, I'm going to be sick, or I'm not going to be sick. I am sick. I can't get this in, or hey, I'm having this issue. Please have that communication, and they can definitely adjust dates for you. But as I mentioned last week, the timelines and the deadlines is part of the grading policy, which teachers do have the right to impose. And so again, it is a pretty common practice to say it's due this day. If it's not in this day, you're going to get some sort of a punishment or a penalty, which is either some points off or no points. So again, it's about holding you accountable, and that happens in real life. If you don't pay your bills on time, you get fined a little bit more. If you don't show up for court on a day when you're supposed to, you could have a arrest warrant for you. So while this is not as serious as those things, it is part of that practice of becoming a responsible citizen. So again, please try and get things in on time. There's a reason why there's a deadline for some of them. If you can't, have a communication with the teacher, and if there's a legitimate reason that where it's an excused absence, they will definitely work with you. So hope that helps. Again, in that private request for a private thing, there was some question about, how do students, and this has come up a couple times, like my particular student has a 504 or an IEP and they need some extra support. So for those of you who may not know those terms, a 504 is similar to an IEP, but it's not the same. There are different federal laws that go with those, but basically they are about supporting students who may have some sort of a learning disability or physical or emotional disability that helps or prevents them from completing school or being at school on time, things like that. So we create these plans for them. You do have to qualify for those, but again, in these cases, you can always communicate directly with the teacher and say, hey, according to my 504 or according to the IEP, I'm supposed to be getting this. Can we make sure that that's happening? In some other cases, the case manager specifically might be the better person to call. So for an IEP, you will know who your case manager is because it's assigned to you, and they usually have a specific class with that student. But they're the one who actually can communicate with all the teachers and all the support personnel. So that's also a good person to go to. In the case of a 504, the case manager is the administrator who runs the meeting. So they're all assigned to certain parts of the alphabet. So that administrator who ran, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always email or contact them. Counselors are also part of 504s, sometimes in part of IEPs, but they can also be a help and a resource if needed at different times. So definitely try and communicate with them, and they can also provide some ways to communicate. In the end, if things aren't resolved, you might want to go to administration, or you might ask for an actual meeting to be held again with a specific teacher or with with the case manager, and that is something that's within your right. So again, don't jump to the meeting the first part, because it might be something that can quickly and easily be solved. But if you're getting to a point where you're like, I've tried a couple things and nothing seems to be working, you have the right to call a meeting. So you would contact that particular case manager for that particular meeting. We did have some conversations, as again, as you saw in the thorn part of the earlier part of the video, that there are a lack of social interactions, and we definitely agree and understand that most of what we do in high school is about interacting socially, whether it's things like just walking between classes, or things you do in class, or your clubs, or homecoming, that kind of things, and those have definitely been cut out, and so we are lacking in social interactions. One of the areas, and this is a request from the teachers, is that students really try to turn their cameras on. And then this isn't the only issue and the only problem that's out there, but this one is one that teachers would really like to see more faces, more people, because it's hard to interact with the computer, especially when you don't see the student. And what really struck me the other day was a teacher was talking to me. She's like, I actually don't even know what this student looks like unless I go into Infinite Campus and look at their summary screen, which has their picture on it, because their camera is off the whole time. I wouldn't recognize them if they walked past me today. So that's really hard when we're trying to build some connections with folks. It's hard to build that when you're interacting with students. I've heard some students be concerned about when they go into breakout groups, like there's 4 people in the breakout group and 2 of them have their camera on and 2 of them have them off. It is really hard to get a read and understand it and communicate back and forth. So just as a request, if you know your student is not turning a camera on, if you would encourage them, if you're a student watching this, please turn your cameras on. There are reasons why you don't have your camera on, and if it's a tech issue, let us know. We can help you out. We can either get you another Chromebook, or we can get you a camera that goes onto your computer. So we have some of that technology to loan out. So we're happy to help in those ways. If there is a personal or private issue, there are some students who are really anxious about being on camera, or they don't want to necessarily people to see what their bedroom looks like. Please just communicate with the teacher, and maybe there's a way to develop a system with the teacher where you'll understand when it's appropriate to have your camera on and when it's appropriate to have it off. Again, this may seem like something simple, but this may go a long way in terms of starting to build some of those relationships. And again, eventually you're going to be back in school, and so getting people familiar with each other is great. So again, if we could start a movement here to get more cameras on, that would be, I think, a very positive thing for us. So hopefully that's something we can work on. Wanted to also point out that you will start seeing a schedule here for Opportunity Week. Opportunity Week is basically Finals Week, but we're giving it a different name because we're changing sort of the focus of Finals Week. There will still be some classes that hold finals, hold your traditional end of semester finals or end of unit finals, but there are other classes that don't do traditional tests. They do different kinds of what we would call a culminating academic activity. It could be a discussion or presentations or a project. And so those will still also be happening as well too. But one of the things that we wanted to add in, and this is happening across the district, is what you see here at the bottom of the end, or at the end of the day, which is written there in red, these enrichment periods. And as you see the definition down there, an enrichment is a flexible, non-mandatory period that may be used to help students complete or make up work as well as prepare for finals at the discretion of the teacher. And so not every teacher may have some of these opportunities. They may have already provided things and done things in different ways, but this might be a chance to, a student who has struggled completing some assignments or needs just a little bit of extra time to get something done. This could be a time where they're able to do that. So what I would encourage you, the student and the parent, but the student, reach out to the teacher and say, hey, will you be offering enrichment periods? Can I finish this here? Or can I make up this assignment there? The enrichment periods are not, again, there's not a time where you have to check into a specific class. It's kind of like an office hours. It may even be used like some office hours to help a student prepare for the final, or to get some extra tips on what did they need to do to finish the class strongly. But check in with that teacher. What are they going to be offering? What are they going to be able to do during those periods? What I wouldn't do though is wait until the last second to try and turn everything in. That makes it very hard to grade and to get everything feedback back to you. So again, the idea is to try and those students who might need a little extra help with time. And so that's part of the reason we're doing it. So yes, there are some finals going on. There are some culminating academic activities, and there may also be this enrichment or opportunity, sort of last minute chances to help out your grades. And so we hope that everyone takes advantage of those. There's also, hopefully you saw in the email that came out, the blast that this video was also part of, but there is a virtual grand opening for our GSS. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm the one hosting that, and you're gonna have to listen to me talk about the GSS building again. But if you wanna kind of get a glimpse at what our new building looks like, because you haven't been able to go inside, it's a short video that you can go and find at our YouTube channel, which is, if you see that other little logo there, the green circle with the outline of the bridge, that's the bridge that goes over 280. That's our YouTube channel, and so that can be found on our website as well too. You'll be able to find the link to this video, as well as to the virtual grand opening and a bunch of other videos that we've had out there. So maybe a chance to go back and look at some other videos of things that we've been putting on out there. So an extra bonus film here, if you will, for the week. Really quickly, just some quick information about the upcoming holiday. So, Thanksgiving is next week. And so Monday and Tuesday are going to be normal, typical days, just like they always are. Wednesday is still an asynchronous day, but there is an advisory will be meeting at 9 a.m. So there is an advisory this week, or that week particularly. And then office hours will be earlier in the day, 10:15 to 11. And that'll really be the last responsibility that students have for that particular day. I know not many people are going to be traveling or going anywhere for Thanksgiving, but at least that's kind of when for students, your holiday will start beginning at that point. And then Thursday and Friday are holidays. There's no school those particular days, but we're right back at it on the following Monday, November 30th. So again, thank you for staying tuned, and hopefully you get a chance to look at the virtual grand opening. And hope you have a great and safe weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.